everybody. My name's Drew, and I'm an addict. Hey, Drew. Wow. Proud of you. I was asked to introduce my bestest buddy about 10 minutes ago, so I hadn't really had time to think of a lot of good things to say about him. Except that I love him very much, and he's like a spiritual brother to me. I met this guy in 1986. I had a year and a half clean at a convention in Columbia. He had 6 years clean. And from that point on, we gone to concerts together. We've been in different places in the world, all over the United States. We lived together for a few years, pursued acting, worked in the film industry for a long time. And this guy, I've kept in touch with him, and we've been good friends for, what, 23 years? 22 years? And this guy has grown immensely in the program. We both have, and it's hard to see. I was talking to some people at dinner tonight. It's hard to really get how much a person you've grown yourself, because the changes are over a long period of time. But knowing this guy and seeing what he's been through, in a real serious motorcycle accident a few years ago, and lived through it. And I just love you, Keith. And I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're going to speak for us tonight.
My mother, my father, my brother, all addicts. My sister was the only one that didn't have this disease. And when I 11 on, I started pushing out everybody out of my life that didn't use the way I wanted to use, which was everything I could, as much as I could, as often as I could. And by the time I was 15, I was breaking into houses and stealing cars and all sorts of crap, and was lying, cheating, doing whatever I had, and I used it every day for several years. And I got caught a few times. And first of all, this is the interactive part of the program. How many people were in trouble with their drug use while they were a teenager? Okay. Well, me too. The only difference is my mother had found another fellowship. And I was standing in front of a judge, and I was 17 years old, and I wanted to be Tony Montana with a better ending. And the judge said, you can go to juvie, and my mom said, he needs to go to a drug treatment center. And this was in January of 1980. Nobody really knew much about drug treatment centers at that time. And I didn't know anything about it, except it was only for a couple months, and juvie was for 6. They had girls at the treatment center, and I figured, well, if you escape from juvie, they'll take you back to juvie. If you escape from treatment, you just might get away. They might not care. So I think, well, the easier, softer way is I'm going to the drug treatment center. I had no desire to stop. I had no desire to look at who I am as a human being. I just wanted what I wanted, when I wanted it, the easier, softer way, and then that's all I could think about. And I went to this drug treatment center, basically against my will, kicking and screaming. Actually, I threatened, this guy showed up to take me there, and I threatened his life. I screamed at my mother, calling her every name in the book, even though I was court-ordered. And I went reluctantly. But deep down, I wanted to go to juvie. Addicts, like, I wanted to build a career jacket. It's like, addicts are the only people that think like that. Like, hey, I've been in 12 prisons in 3 different states, and it's like, only addicts can come up with that shit. And I had that mentality, and I'm thinking, okay, well, whatever, I'll go to the treatment center. And while I was there, there was no mention of Narcotics Anonymous. And this is in Minnesota where I grew up, which at that time was the recovery capital of the world. And I think they even had a recovery hall of fame there. Pete Seal told me more about that one. And God rest Mac's soul. Mac who passed away, first of all. Another thing I want to get out of the way. The reason I'm sitting up here tonight is they had a couple great speakers, and one of them wasn't able to show up because he had heart surgery last week. And his name's Biff from Florida, Biff K. And so please, let's have a moment of silence for Biff. Thank you. I met Beth probably like in '83. We went to a convention down in Florida, and there were 2 people from Florida at the convention in Florida. They were all from Atlanta. So finding the son, and, I've known him ever since then. He's got an amazing program. He's a wonderful guy. And he was going to speak here, and he had heart surgery. So tomorrow night's speaker, who's supposed to be tonight's speaker, Biff, said they can travel. So they made you suffer with me tonight. But I appreciate it. Things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm very, very grateful. 30 years of recovery in the Carolinas is incredible. And people are keeping the doors open for addicts to get help, because addiction does not go away. Like I said, we had this dinner in Charlotte where a bunch of people were around, and there were a lot of people who were clean in the mid-'80s in Charlotte who only had a short period of time clean. And one of the guys, I called him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he actually answered the phone, which was a miracle. He said, yeah, I'll be there. And at 6 o'clock, when dinner started, a friend goes, "That's too many hours. He ain't gonna make it. There's too many hours from 2:30 to 6 o'clock. He's hitting the pipe. He ain't gonna make it." I'm like, this guy's like 6 years clean at one time. I'm like, what do you mean he ain't gonna? He's like, he's hitting the pipe. He ain't gonna make it. Sure enough, he chose the pipe over us.
Wow.
And it broke my fucking heart, you know? It's like, if somebody's using, it affects everybody. Your using will affect other people. But if we are using, our whole life is wrapped up in the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. That's what addiction is. We get in that tunnel vision of living like in this small little circle. And when we get clean, we can finally open up to the world and have a life again. But like I said, you know, Biff had heart surgery last week, so send your prayers. And I mentioned Mac earlier. He got clean in Minnesota, in prison. They sent him to this treatment center that has a Hall of Fame. And he looked around and said, "You know what? Fuck this, take me back to prison." And they did. And after all that, he ended up coming to Winston-Salem in the early 80s. And, you know, there's a lot of predecessors who kept the doors open in the Carolinas here. And I'm grateful to be a part of that process. Because right after I got out of treatment in 1980, which ironically, I don't know, I heard there was a little weird blurbs. People were, you know, questioning my clean date or whatever. I have my treatment center papers where they were releasing me in March of 1980. And I got them with me if you want to see them. I see staple and all. And I'll give you my mother's phone number. You know, if she's never got that call. You know, guess what? I had to start over. She never got that call. And the miracle of this program is that when I moved to North Carolina, right after I got out of treatment, you know, I had to go to a different fellowship because nobody told us about Narcotics Anonymous, even though it was the recovery capital of the world. Nobody knew about NA, or they weren't very vocal about it. It was a very small fellowship. Even in LA or wherever, it was a small fellowship where it started. And what happened was I had to make a decision on if I wanted to stay clean or not when I got out of treatment. And I said, I'm going to try it for a while. And I didn't know if that meant 30 minutes, 30 hours, 30 days. I never expected 30 years. One day at a time, it's been 30 years.
All right.
When I got out of treatment, I was 17 years old. People were going, "You're too young." Hell, I get it. Today I got it 5 times. You're too young to have 30 years. I've always got, I'm too young to be here. I'm too young to have the clean time I have. Whatever. Guess what? My body is beat up. I'm definitely old enough. So I had to make a decision though. I'm going to try it for a while. And I decided I wanted to be a more efficient maniac. I had such low self-esteem. I wanted to break into houses and not get caught. I wanted to rob people and not get caught. Because I didn't have enough self-esteem to think I could actually have a job that paid bills. That I could go to school and get a better education. I was in the school for slow learners. And it was one big party. We had a keg in the woods. Seriously. And I didn't have enough self-esteem to think that I could become a responsible, productive member of society. And I wanted to rob people. And I figured, that's all I know. That's what I'm going to do. I have fun doing it. And said, you know what, we need a new start. We need to be able to get you like a fresh start. And we moved to North Carolina. We moved to Greensboro a few months after I got out of treatment. And when we got to Greensboro, I had to go to meetings of another fellowship because there was no Narcotics Anonymous in North Carolina at that time. But I met a couple young people. Now when I say young, they were teenagers. And when a 17-year-old looks at a group of people, anybody over 25 is them. Those old people. You're 25, you should be out of college, you're married, have a career. You should be on your way to a life. 17 years old, 25 is old. Seriously. So when you see young people in meeting, understand that. And relate to them that, you know what? It doesn't matter how old you are. If you are an addict, you got 4 choices. You can be 7 years old and never use a drug in your life and still be an addict. I've been clean for 30 years by the grace of God and the ability to say, no matter what, I'm not going to pick up today. But my addiction hasn't gone away. If I don't work a program today, my addiction will kick my ass clean. The basic text it talks about many of us that ended up jobless, homeless, penniless, clean, backed ourselves into a corner that no addict can come out of clean. I've been in those corners. I've got out of them clean. I don't know how, but I've got out of them clean. And the miracle of this program, though, is right when I moved to North Carolina, a guy comes walking into a meeting and says, with a little white book from Narcotics Anonymous, we had 5 IPs and a little white book at that time. And he walked in with a couple, and he got them from a prison in Philadelphia. There's a guy here from Philly who was clean back then in 1979. I personally want to thank you because your efforts may have started a whole new fellowship here in North Carolina. What ended up happening was somebody mailed literature out of prison. And a guy in North Carolina got it. We started NA in Greensboro in June of 1980. Those were the first registered meetings in North Carolina. It doesn't make me a better person than anybody. I just happen to be fortunate to be a part of that cycle when it happened. And when I went to meetings of another fellowship, because that's all there was, I was told, you're too young. I spilled more on my tie than you ever drank. And I said, if you weren't such a fucking slob, maybe I would have thought about it when But we're talking 1980, and when we started NA, it's like all Vietnam vets and shit, and they were like, hey, if you didn't shoot dope on the Hanoi Trail, you ain't an addict. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm more of an addict. I get addicted to the crap on the street now, here, you got addicted to the real stuff. Anybody can do that. Addiction isn't what you use. And it's not even how much you use. It's why you used. And we started Narcotics Anonymous with this literature. And we went to other meetings and we rounded up all the degenerates that nobody liked. That didn't fit in. And we started meetings. And the miracle of this program is, it caught on, and we were able to get meetings in Burlington and Winston, and went to like the first anniversary in Burlington, and Danny and Wanda were there, and a couple of us from Greensboro. My friend Jimmy B was there, and Tommy S. We were all there, and it was at some girls' pool party, and Danny, everybody left, but the people that were there from Burlington, come to find out she was using again. Nobody even knew it. So as soon as everybody with You're Clean left with recovery, they broke into the liquor cabinet and found everything. The whole town relapsed. It was a little different back then. And, it was real tough because people didn't understand what their disease was. And it took the tomorrow there's going to be a demonstration of what they were doing in 1979 and 80 and 81, which is they were writing the basic text at that time. And my God, we didn't know anything about that. We were an island. We didn't know there was recovery outside of Pennsylvania and California. We didn't know Atlanta was rolling. Atlanta had 4 clubhouses in like 82. And they had the World Convention in 79, and they had like 100 meetings a week. And you know, they brought it up here to Greenville. And Brett went into Asheville, I think from Virginia Beach or somewhere. And you know, they got Eddie going up in Asheville, and it's like it was spreading all around us, but we didn't know they existed because we got our literature from a prison in Philly. And that getting the literature like that, you know, I was sharing with somebody earlier. There's a speaker. His name's Khalees or Ernie. They've actually got an MP of him that's like at the speaker table. He recently passed away like a year and a half ago. He always said, you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in the seed. And you share, you spread the message, and you never know where that message might go. And this guy sent the literature out of prison in North Carolina, started a Holden Fellowship. And your message may not even affect the person you're sharing it to. They may buy a basic text, bring it home, set it down, and their parents or somebody's reading it, and they got clean. And the person you gave it to might die a horrible death. And that's the vagaries of addiction is this. NA is not for those who need it. It's for those who want it. The guy that received the literature from his brother in prison ended up shooting his girlfriend and shooting himself. That's what untreated addiction, where it will lead. It will make you think the craziest, most insane, ludicrous thoughts are normal. And the miracle of the program is those we're here for each other. And this is a we program. All the steps start with we, except for the 12, and eventually gets to we. But it's a we program because I can't run my own life. I can't physically figure something out on my own. I need help. I need your help because you people understand me. Like I said, no matter how long I've been clean, my addiction hasn't gone away. My addiction is this. I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. I'm obsessive and compulsive. I'm an extremist. To steal a line from Brent, I don't have feelings. I've got feelings! To steal a line from Dee, my mother was on an Indian reservation in Wisconsin now. There are no reservations in recovery. Well, guess what? I have to work through my reservations because we all have, well, if this happens, I'm going to get loaded. I don't think I can make it through this if my mother dies or if this happens. And when I got here, I was told I was too damn young. Go out, give a story. And they told that to my brother. 6 months later, he was dead. Because addiction kills. Left to my own vices, I will not survive. It's a lifelong disease. And without actively staying involved, working a program, and communicating with other people, I would have a miserable life because I would be living up in my own head. The miracle is today I can share anything with my friends, and they still love me and care about me. Even though they might say, you're one sick bastard. I have the right to think that, though, because that's my first thought. My first thought is, I want to rob a jewelry store. My first thought is, what is the easier, softer way? I wouldn't rob Bill's jewelry store. Love you, Bill. I pick on somebody I didn't know. And the key to recovery is the rabbit and the hare and the tortoise. You got to be the tortoise. Recovery is called working a program. There's a lot of social networks out there, and it's like, oh, I'm going to join this group. And they click join, and they're like, I'm part of that group. Well, guess what? You can join NA. But you have to be involved in NA. It takes work. It takes effort. If you are new, you need to raise your hand and say, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. The problem is you don't know what you're doing. It's a catch-22. So we have to be humble enough to realize that we're here for each other. And just keep putting yourself there. Go to a lot of meetings. If you are new, go to a lot of meetings. Get a lot of phone numbers. Harass the old-timers for information. I love seeing newcomers that have just such zeal and they're so excited to be here. This is a great life because when I'm clean, the whole world opens up. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able, there's people here I've been in many different countries with. I've been able to go to the biggest rock concerts in the world. I was at one, they had a tent this size. It meets every other hour for like 4 days. With 200 people in it, all weekend long. With people in the program having meetings every other hour. Anything you want to do, there's people that want to do it too. And you can get together and learn who those people are, and you can become friends and like build deep, meaningful relationships with a lot of people. And I was talking to Dee earlier about, there's a lot of social networks out there, and it's like we used to come to conventions in the 80s because this is where we got to see each other. This is where we got to see our friends. This is where we got to hang out and learn who each other are and spend time together and really understand what their personality's like and everything, and like really connect with people. And the bonds you make at conventions are incredible. And now it's like you go online and it's like, oh yeah, you go, okay, I'll be your friend, click. And it's like, oh look, pretty pictures, whatever, but it's like you don't really get to know the person. You get the outer shell. But recovery is about learning who the heart is. And early in my recovery, like I said, after my brother died, I had a lot of no matter whats, and somehow I stayed clean through it. I've been jobless, homeless, penniless. I moved down to Columbia, South Carolina in the end of 85, early 86 for a little while. I went to Greensboro. And I became jobless, homeless, penniless. I had a Harley that was broken down. I chained it to a tree. I had to live in a homeless type place. I had to cut my hair. I had hair almost as long as this. I had to cut my hair to get a job. And, I had to humble myself. And, it was real simple. I was either going to go back to the way I used to live and try to come up really fast and steam my way through it, or I was going to do it the right way. And I decided I was going to try to do it the right way. And I worked my way through it. And I got a job. I worked my ass off, and I got some checks, and I got a trailer. I worked my way up to a trailer. And, and then at the end of the year, I moved to Charlotte, and I lived in Charlotte from end of 96 to like 91. And, I've developed these deep-seated bonds with people, true friendships. And today, I say I used to have no self-esteem. Today I have low self-esteem. I'm damn proud of it. I learned that you can accomplish things in life without hurting others. I had no idea you could do that. takes time to work through and figure out. See, the problem is to quote another addict, you know, the things that really screw us up is romance and finance. And we really get caught up in our brain on what to do next and how to work this. And those are the things we need to be sharing with someone else. I need to be sharing my deepest, most innermost thoughts and motivations with other people so they can laugh at me. And when they laugh at me, they're laughing because they identify. But I learned how to start basing relationships and friendships on what I can give to the situation instead of what I can take from the situation. And like I said, I developed really strong bonds with a lot of people. And I've moved around, like you said, you know, moved to Wilmington, we're going to go to, you know, Wilmingwood and become actors and famous movie stars, and our egos were out to here. I think there still is, but mine shrunk a little. So that didn't work. But you know, the miracle is I was able to live my dreams. I was able to move somewhere and take chances and like do something exciting with my life and try to, you know, it was like the circus came to town. A few people left with it. And I was one of them. And I ended up moving out to LA. That's when I ended up, I moved to New York for a little while. And I ran into fools like Dominic. He's here from Boston. But I've got these friendships that I've developed over the years that I've always just like tried to maintain. And in the early 90s, you know, I met Dominic and traveled around the Northeast with him, hitting convention, having a ball. And that's what recovery's given me. It's the ability to wrap myself around this program to a point where no matter where I go, I have instant friends that are going to care about me. So when I have gone to other countries like Australia, they say, hey, show up at this coffee shop in the daytime around 2 o'clock. There's a bunch of addicts that show up there and they'll hang out with you. So I'm like, okay, whatever, maybe 3 or 4 people. I show up at 2 o'clock, there's like 20 people there from the firm. They don't call it the program, they call it the firm. There's like 20 people, and by like 6 o'clock, there's 50 people there. And then they all jump in cars and drive off on the wrong side of the road. And they're giving me tours and stuff. But you know what? If I wasn't a recovering addict, I'd go to Australia, and I had the opportunity to go to Australia. I'd be there by myself, just going, you know, we're at the double-decker tour bus. And it's like, I went there and I immediately had a family. These people took me in, and it wasn't because of my clean time. It was because I was an addict reaching out for help and saying, hey, I'm new here, you know, show me around, whatever, and they did. Those are the miracles of recovery. I've been able to do that in Amsterdam. I've been able to do that in Paris. I've been able to do that in London. The miracles are, if I stay clean, you know, it's like the whole world opens up. They say the longer you stay clean, the road gets narrower. It's not. You just get so much higher than it. Because you can do more. It's easy to lose track of the road, though. And here's the big problem. No matter how far down the road you go, you're the same distance from the ditch. And that little, one more, crash. I mean, you might be on an 8-lane freeway in LA, but you're still dodging bullets. The point is, I have to remember first and foremost, I'm an addict. And everything I have today is a gift. Because I chose to stay clean. There is a gift that I have that everybody in this room can have. But you must work a program. Mere abstinence ain't going to get you very far. It'll stop some insanity. Might keep you out of jail for a little while, but one day you're going to be a case of the buckets. The moment you say, fuck it. Bang, right into the guardrail. And I've watched so many people die over these years. 2 months ago, we buried an 18-year-old kid in L.A. that I've known since he was about 8 years old. His father was in the program. His father got like 10 years clean. And he decided to try it again. Came back to the program, had about a year and a half, and his son just turned 18 and decided his son was in trouble with the police and everybody, and said he was about to go to jail, and he decided to go to treatment. That same deal I did, go to treatment or go to juvie, and he decided to go to treatment. About a week later, he ran away, which was my plan, but I was too chicken shit maybe to do it. This kid ran away. And within 3 weeks, he was shot and killed by the police. And last summer, I got to hang out with him before he went to treatment. I said, look, all this stuff's on your juvenile record. If you stay clean, you can have this wonderful life. And, this kid had everything going for him. The grandparents have like 2 houses in Aspen, a house in Mulholland, living right next to famous actors. And, he had anything he could want. But he chose to live a dope-fiend life. He wanted, the rush of getting high. And he was shot and killed by the police. And his father, I'm sorry to say, he got loaded since then. And unfortunately, he's still getting loaded. And the pain we go through, the emotional distress we feel, we have to be able to share that with people. We have to be able to tell people, it hurts. I need help. I need somebody around. I need to be taken care of. I can't do this by myself. I need help. And by choice, it doesn't come naturally to us, but somehow I've been able to have enough humility. If you are humble, you cannot be humiliated. If you are not humble, you will be humiliated. And somehow, I'm not better than anybody, but somehow, most of the times in my recovery, I've been able to be humble enough to say, my life sucks. The greatest thing about NA, you can walk in here and go, I just destroyed my life, and get a standing ovation. You don't believe me? Be here tomorrow night for a clean time countdown. We're getting out in 3-4 days clean. There's going to be people getting standing ovation. That's the miracle of this program. I have to open myself up enough to be available to do that. But through the process of trying to help people instead of hurt people, applying these principles, these spiritual principles to my life of honesty, faith, forgiveness, I've been able to develop friendships in the program that have been over 20 plus years that I still have that are as deep of bonds today that I could ever imagine. And I've been able to come back to North Carolina here this last week. And, I'm coming to town, so I'm calling all my friends and I'm like, let's do a dinner in Charlotte. And it's like, a bunch of people get together and come to find out they live in the same friggin' town and they haven't seen each other in 10 years. That ain't right. We're here for each other. And that's why, conventions are very important to me. It's like we get to see our friends. We get to feel that emotions between each other. It ain't like clicking, oh, you're my friend. I got 900 friends. I keep up with all of them. It's being able to commune with each other, break bread, find out how each other's really doing. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that long enough that when I needed friends, they were there for me. And I didn't even know I needed friends. I knew I got plenty of friends and I'm sharing whatever, but 4.5 years ago, I was in Las Vegas, which I was living in LA, in Hollywood. I'm in Las Vegas, and I'm riding my Harley trying to get badass in July. I 120 degrees, and I'm riding my motorcycle for some dumb reason when I could have been in a car with air conditioning. And I wake up 3 weeks later from a coma screaming, "Get me to the casino!" Where am I? And I got hit. I got T-boned. I totaled a brand new Cadillac with my body and bike. I had a shattered neck. They put clamps in my neck. They put me in an induced coma for like 2.5 weeks. My leg was dangling off my body. They would do 6 bone grafts. For 2 weeks straight, they were telling my family his internal organs may fail at any moment. He could die at any moment. And when I came out of the coma, there were people in my hospital room. Actually, I came out of the coma in the middle of the night. But the next day, it's like, where did all you people come from? It's like, there were people in my hospital room every day. I'm not talking 6 out of 7 days for 2 months. I'm talking about every day for 2 months. And I was 280 miles from home. Okay, I gotta confess, most of my friends are degenerate gamblers. Needed a really good excuse to go to the I'm kidding. I work for a casino now. Every day there were people from the program in my hospital room. And my phone was ringing off the hook all day long. And I barely remember any of it. I wake up strapped down, go, "What happened?" And they said, "You tried pushing your bed to the Palms pool." I'm like, "That's like 5 miles away." I'm like, "Okay, I understand." Oh my God. And halfway up the door, they're pushing it back in. You know, it's crazy. One leg hopping. We crawled around the bottom of the bed trying to figure out how to unlock the wheels, and one leg hopping, trying to push my bed out the door so I could go to the pool with the Palms so I could heat it. We come up with the strangest shit. And I'd wake up strapped down, you know, it's like, okay, next. So, but the miracle is I didn't know I needed friends till I needed them. When I got out of the hospital, I needed people really bad. And they were there for me. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. I had a big neck brace, and my neck was shattered. So, you know, I had to like go to meetings in a wheelchair. I had to, you know, have people bring me lunch and dinner. And I was living in Hollywood. I had this big 4-bedroom house, a pool, jacuzzi, and all that crap when I got hit. And I was living with a guy, and when I got in my accident, he decided, okay, well, your bills aren't going away, and there's no way you're going to be able to afford this without your job. So, and I lost my job basically because I couldn't do it anymore. You know, it's in the movie business. It's actually a very physical job, and with that, my leg, there's no way I was going to be able to do it. So he got us out of our lease. So I get out of the hospital, all my crap's in storage. So now I'm homeless, in a wheelchair, until I got enough money to get an apartment. But people were there for me. They took care of me. The miracle of the program was if I wasn't plugged in, if I still wasn't plugged in, you know, I don't think I could have made it through that. Feeling alone and when you're desperate is horrible. And my advice to everybody is this: don't get desperate. Because there's a storm coming. There's a storm coming in tonight. But guess what? There's a storm in your life coming. And it all may fall apart, or you may think it's falling apart. And if you don't have people in the program to turn to, and the spiritual principles, to practice these principles in all your affairs, you may not live through it. You may not make it through it. And we're all here to help you. It's not the end of the world, but there's no guarantee that you're going to make it back. I have way too many friends that said, I'll try it for a while. I'll get loaded, It starts getting too bad, I know where to go. They never make it back. Either they die or they struggle, and they're an addict. They struggle for years. Jails, institutions, death, or recovery. Those are our options. Today I choose recovery. And everybody in this room can stay clean for the rest of your life. Everybody. It's up to you. It's not up to God. I believe in a higher power, but I don't believe in God's guilt. I don't think God's here to punish me. I think I put myself in situations that I go through. And I tell people, don't get desperate, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. Protect yourself. Learn how to live, to become a productive member of society. Learn how to hide money from yourself so when the storm comes, you got something to fall back. When your car breaks down, you need to be at work, you go buy another car. It's like you got to learn how to protect yourself from life. Nobody taught us how to do that usually. We need to help each other do that. It's okay, to have insurance policies. My problem was I worked for the movie business. They have the absolute stone cold best insurance policy in America. Other than cosmetic surgery, it costs nothing to go to the doctor, period, for anything. Checkups, anything, just zero. Medication, zero. And about a month before my accident, I get a letter saying, you don't have enough hours. All you need is hours to qualify for it. You don't have enough hours because I've been having too much fun flying around the world, whatever. So you can cover copay for like $350 a month, or you can go get your hours. And I'm like, a couple weeks I'll get my hours. No big deal. And my accident happened. And the guy that hit me, I don't remember anything, but they said it was my fault. And my insurance was $100,000 medical. And I have $500,000 medical bills over what my insurance would pay. And the storm came.
Yeah.
My life stopped. But thank God that through learning how to recover, I've been able to deal with this, where I had proper investments, and I had things, that were good in my life. That I've never missed a credit card payment. I've never missed any payment other than this $500,000 medical bills, which I still have to deal with. And I ended up having to move out of Los Angeles because I couldn't afford to live there without a good job, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And this summer, I was fortunate enough, I came to visit some friends in LA, and the guy says, hey, you know how to edit, don't you? I'm like, not really, a little bit. He goes, oh, that's perfect. We have our own software. We got to train somebody anyway. You want a union editing job? And I'm like, I've never done this before. For pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I didn't get loaded, because I kept putting myself out there, because I stayed in contact with people, because I tried helping people instead of hurting people. When I needed it, it was there. And if you stick around, you're going to see the miracles. And if you are going crazy, if life's like driving you nuts, talk to people. Get commune with people. Learn how they went through it. And keep coming back. Like I said, nobody in here ever has to get loaded again. It's up to you. God doesn't say, okay, you're going to stay clean, but you're going to live under a bridge and end up in prison and back in treatment and back under a bridge. And it's not how God works. If you want help, this is what we did. And if you do this, you will get the same results. It's called working a program. It's not, you don't get the program by just hanging out. Hanging out's fun, and eventually we can have a ball hanging out, but it takes effort. It's practicing these principles in all our affairs. And I've been so blessed to be able to come back to the Carolinas here and celebrate 30 years of recovery. And to see how this program has grown, and that people are still coming in, and addicts are still helping each other, and the newcomers are still coming in and getting help. phenomenal time. And I'm very grateful for the people that have been in my life here that have just always been there for me. I'm just going to leave you with the fact that today, my life, I may not have everything that I want. I've gone through some serious injuries. I didn't walk for almost 2 years. It was over 18 months I didn't walk. And I don't have everything that I want. But if I keep coming to meetings, and I keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'll have what I need. And the only thing, after all of this, I found out the motorcycles, the vintage muscle cars, everything that I owned, it didn't matter. What mattered was my friends, my family. That's the only thing that would happen. So if you don't have any friends, get some. If you don't know how to have a friend, ask. Friends don't fuck over friends. Okay? Learn how to be a friend. Learn how to give to a relationship instead of take from one. And the miracle will happen with you too, where you'll have some people that care about you more than you care about yourself. Because one day you're going to say, fuck it. And they're going to be on the phone going, how are you doing? You're going to say, fuck it. And they're going to go, you come over, please. Let's do something. Let's go somewhere. And they'll make the things that are really important again. Which is, if you are an addict, you have 4 choices. Which one are you going to choose? Today I choose recovery. And I pray tomorrow I'll do the same choice. For that I'm grateful.